Welcome into another edition of Spits and Suds. I'm Gavin Spittle of 105.3 The Fan. Lucky to be joined by 17-year NHL veteran, two-time Stanley Cup champion, two-time NCAA champion for his thoughts on last night's Stars game and to talk about Friday night. He is up in Wisconsin, but he still scouted the game last night for us. It's Craig Ludwig.
Good morning, or is it afternoon? I guess people don't know anyway. So yeah, it was a interesting road trip.
Yeah.
And usually is.
Yes.
Weather was good though, but somehow we found a way to get the game on the cell phone between the not Bluetooth. What the hell is it called? Or something? I don't know. Anyway, it worked. So we got the game, and then I got to tell you a story about that at some point. So anyway, go ahead, Gavin. What are we talking about today?
No,
are we talking
I
about
just,
Stars? Are we talking about Florida Panthers?
I really enjoy texting with your wife. I enjoy texting with your wife because she gets back to me, and that's awesome. But she sent a picture of the two of you doing a cheers in Wisconsin, which was nice. However, you always rib me for not getting you the proper beer, and yet you were holding a different beer.
Well, since you don't work on sponsors, I'm working on sponsors.
Okay.
Oh, wait. And speaking of Miller Lite.
Yes. it's noon somewhere, right?
No, we got a couple Heineken Silvers.
Yeah, saw that.
That was my dad used to drink Heineken, so we kind of got that's the king of beers up here up north from the standpoint of the high. That's your high brand, right? That's your top shelf beer up here. So yeah,
nice. Well, I appreciate you joining us on vacation and talking about last night. And boy, we could start and do a pretty good show for the first 5.5 minutes.
Oh man. Yeah. And speaking of that, so I had a little, you're driving up here. I'm all happy. I get the pregame show with Biz and Gretz and all these guys, and everything's going smooth, and you're driving and can't believe it's so clear. And then I'm just going to speed for you for the sake of this. It cuts out a little bit. Now we were into the second period. There was about 4 or 5 minutes to go in the second period. And anyway, and it sticks on you, and you can hit the 10-second thing, and and I think you're good. And on comes the pregame show, and for the second intermission. Well, little did I know, I was about 30 minutes behind, and I had to move the phone from above the dash where you got a little thing hanging on your mirror because it was getting dark out. And anyway, I looked down at it and I said, "Hey, Kim, that doesn't look like 2-2. It looks like it says 3-2. And she gets it, and then she puts her glasses on. She goes, "No, it's 4-2. I said, 4-2? We were just watching the intermission show." So I missed all of that stuff. And next thing I knew, it was 4-2. So when I landed in the car here last night at about midnight, I had to go back and rewatch it all. So how do you want to unpack this one?
Well, they started really well, Craig, and I was excited. And I wanted to unpack it with you from a defensive standpoint because...
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So...
Which one do you want me to rag on the most?
Well, listen, they're obviously pros. You were a pro. So I'm asking the question. And from a generic standpoint, can a defenseman become too aggressive? And what I mean by that is try to make every block and save and not allow the goaltender the space, so to speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And you get a little overzealous and you want to do too much, right? Sometimes less is more. And so now go ahead with what you're talking about, because I wasn't thinking of the blocking of shots so much. So where were you going with that?
I think Ottinger, had he not been run into by Suter, would have protected the puck on that first goal.
Okay.
I think on the power play, Harley, puck jumped on him, tried to keep it in the zone. Edmonton breaks out. That's a 2-on-1. I felt as though Ottinger should have been allowed to take the shooter in that case, and maybe Harley slides over a little bit more to take away Janmark.
Okay, Grasshopper, you're learning.
Okay, good. Getting better.
So, but now let's go to this. Let's go to Suits. So the Suter one you're talking about, where he kind of runs into Otter, he backs into him, I should say. Now, that one, the reason that happened to him, because at the last second, did you see him try to reach for the stick right in front of Otter? And I don't know, I can't recall what player that was right at the front of the net.
Yeah.
That was driving to the net.
Yeah.
But let's say, first off, it's a 3-on-2, right?
Right.
Okay, so there's a mistake there. It shouldn't be 3-on-2. What Dallas has been good at in the games that they've been winning is they haven't given up a lot of those chances. They've been pretty regimented and pretty dialed in of always having three guys back. And if you want to go back a little bit further, you're going to watch two forwards that were coming into the offensive zone. There was one clip that shows them, and I think Marchment was one coming back, tracking back into his own zone. But as he gets to the blue line, it's already a 3-on-2. He stops his feet, and you can't stop your feet. And you don't, even if you don't, everybody's covered, which it wasn't because it's an outnumbered rush. You got to keep moving. You got to skate right down into that spot, into that good ice, that box that we talked about from the face-off dots, and make a little square back to the goal line. You have to track back as a forward and pack that thing in there. But at the last second, Suits got kind of spun around a little bit. And I think as a desperation, he knows he's got to get sticks up off the ice. And when he grabbed someone's stick that was driving to the net, and he kind of gets pulled forward and he loses his balance a little bit, it looked like to me. And that's how he bumps into Otter. And that's how was it McLeod? Who scored that particular goal?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So whoever it was, he steps off. He kind of has it. There's Otter gets bumped, and he kind of goes down, and it's got the backside of Suter is in Otter's chest and face area, and who scored the goal just takes a little step to his right and tucks it in the net. Yeah. Otter gets pushed out of there really by his own guy on that particular goal.
Let's move to the Thomas Harley goal, where they were on the power play. He's playing point, running, and we could talk about the power play and how it's struggling. I think it's partly movement, Craig. And I really like the way Edmonton, plays the kill. Granted, over 20 straight kills, who wouldn't like it? But I feel as though to offset the aggressiveness of Edmonton, that it's going to require some movement. And I did think the puck kind of jumped on Harley, but I thought he kind of panicked a little bit, tried to keep it in, and that resulted in the 2-on-1 going the other way.
Yeah, and I think they're, and again, you time and score. We talk about time and score all the time. And there's times that you just gotta lay out and lay back a little bit and not be as aggressive. But again, I think that's an MO for Dallas. They've been having a lot of success being aggressive, and so you don't really veer away from it. They're going to take a look. My whole thing is it's when they're getting across the blue line. And first off, let's talk about Hart Thomas for a little bit. Love him. Love that player.
Yep.
And he's going to be a great player. I think he's struggled a little bit to me. There's a couple times he could move the puck in his own zone, and he had to curl back a couple times or two, and maybe not as clean, right? As clean as we've seen Thomas play all year long. But I do think some of that is getting into this third round. And that you're one step away for playing the Stanley Cup in the finals. And, you're a series away. And even for a veteran, you start getting this close, things a little tight, and you don't want to be out there when you make that mistake. You don't want to do that. And sometimes it's just going to happen. And sometimes what you do is it's just less is more. And so you come behind the net, and he's such a great skater, and so is Miro and those guys. But you just make the easy play. But what happens is when you get a little boo-boo, the one thing you can't do is try to make up for it on the next shift and then do a little bit more to make up for what you did more. You got to do just the opposite. You kind of pull back a little bit, make the short outlet, and then kind of get your feet back underneath you and then go again. So, but there's a couple 2-on-1s that happened last night, and that's what we're talking about being a little bit overbearing on the puck carrier. And I think you've got a really good goaltender. And I think Otter's been playing very well. And my philosophy has always been, you start getting into that between the top of the circle and the hash mark as you're backing in towards your goaltender on a 2-on-1, you start to veer off to the far post, so to speak, so that your goaltender can come out and challenge. And on the 2 goals that were scored last night, it was just the opposite. And, there were some passes that were made. And now all of a sudden, Otter's where he's supposed to be. He's setting up for that player that's coming in, and he's going to come out and challenge. Well, when that pass comes across, it's hard to react and get across. And I think it's just more of a, it's an instinct for him to just slide across and take up as much ice as he can. And the majority of time, especially for guys his size, Otter size, he can make that save. These 2 didn't happen that way. And there's pucks that when it's a clear 2-on-1, and again, there's different philosophies. Some people, like their defenseman to be a little aggressive. And that's one thing. If you're up near the blue line as they cross, which I still don't personally like it, but at least your goaltender has time to adjust. And so to me, that's what happened on that one. And then there was the other one, I think it was Essa with McDavid. And you look at Essa's stick at the last minute, he's got his stick parallel. So he's trying to keep his stick and take that pass or the lane away. I would have preferred that with it when it's McDavid, as soon as you can, but it's always stick on puck. I prefer our defensemen have it on there, make it difficult, make them think about that stick. But with McDavid, I think, and especially if it's not Draisaitl, because that's the other weapon that they've got in their toolbox. If it's any other player, even if I go stick on puck and I do it high enough, like say at the top of the circle or in that neighborhood there, because the last guy I want to have the puck on that team is McDavid. And the second to last guy would be Draisaitl. I would say give it to anybody else and let them shoot the puck if those are the two choices that you have. So I think if Essa would have went sick on puck right away as soon as he can, there's going to be a lane there to make the pass, but it's going to be around the top of the circle area. Now that gives time for Jake to get across because and what again, McDavid, we know he's the smartest, the best player in the game, probably on the planet right now. When he's healthy and going, he sees that shooting lane, but he sees that there's nothing to shoot at. So he goes for the POP, puck on pad. You've heard that term, I'm sure, on TV quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't have written it up any better. Like he just shoots far post, and he knows that Ottinger is long, and he gets down, he gets his pad on it, and he gets that little shape of the pad, and that's where them pucks come out. And that's where Bouchard's right there, and he slams it home. And that's a text, and they work on that all the time. In practice, all teams do. Yeah. They work on this play because that's where pucks are going to come off. So from an execution standpoint, great on McDavid for executing that. And that's exactly what Bouchard was waiting for too. Because once that pass doesn't start coming across to him, and he sees that passing lane is being taken away, he's probably slows up a little bit and goes, okay, where's this rebound going to come out? And it came out in the perfect spot.
I'm not a doctor, but I do have with me one of the all-time greats as far as NHL block shots. So the other topic that came out was, oh boy, did we lose Chris Tanev? I wanted to ask you first where that puck went, Craig. Have you ever taken a shot like that? And take us through the pain that's involved in that.
I think we've taken shots everywhere. You play long enough and you get it, and it's amazing how many times it finds a spot where there is no padding.
Yeah.
So when I was just telling you about when I started getting, my cell phone and the game came back on, Tanev was leaving the bench. Oof. So I didn't see what happened, but I got up at 6:00 this morning and I watched the NHL channel. And so I've been going back and forth, trying to figure out where he actually got hit. I originally thought he got hit right below the knee. And I'm thinking, well, you're all padded there. Mm-hmm. But then what I saw in the replay after it is he took his ankle guard off. He took that shot blocker guard off and he handed it to the trainer when he left the bench. And so I thought then when I looked at it again, I went, you know what? It didn't hit him up there. It was just the angle I think that they were showing on TV that I was watching this morning. I think that it actually hit the ankle guard and it may have broke the strap that holds it on. And so it was loose anyways. And then I'm just guessing because there'd be no reason for him to take that off and then leave the bench. So I'm guessing it may have been dangling there and he took it off. So it tells me that he may have gotten hit like just above the ankle, right above that ankle bone, and your skate's not there. And the way he went down, he probably exposed that where it didn't catch his shin pad. So he may have gotten it now. And there was like three people in here this morning sitting me when I'm going back and forth trying to watch this. And I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be terrible if we lose him. I said, you're not losing that guy. That's my opinion. I have no idea what kind of injury it is, but I don't see him missing a shift. That's me. I think that he will do, and there's things obviously you can do to get through a game. And I would think if it's any kind of a small fracture or something in that, like I'm saying, I'm guessing it's just above the ankle, but obviously I don't know. That it's not going to get displaced. You're not going to do any more damage to it. And you're going to have to play through a small hairline fracture, if that's what it is. Maybe it's just one of them bone bruises because you can get, and it hits a nerve. Sometimes it's not even that bad, but when it hits a nerve, it feels like something broke. So, I guess we'll find out. But my opinion, knowing how Chris plays the game, what happened the last game? Didn't he just go in? They had to yank a tooth, and he was back on the bench.
Yeah.
One shift or something like that.
Yeah, guy's a stud.
Kind of player it is. He's an old school guy.
Yeah.
So, but again, we go back to the first round, and when we talked about this, when you're going to lean on five guys, and you're going to get 4, 5, 6 extra minutes than you what normally during the course of the season, in shifts and shift lengths and everything else. Not so much getting wore down all the time, but you're out there all the time. So you're in harm's way more often than not. So this is what happens, and if, whether Petrovic or whatever, if they're not getting him, although he's getting some pretty regular minutes, but you can see the little things. You can see some of the plays. There was one play where he got too wide. He didn't have the middle of the ice covered, and again, things happen quicker here, obviously. And regardless if you played 4 games or 10 games in the playoffs, you haven't spent a whole year or 5 years playing against this level of hockey have a consistent diet of it. So, but again, that's just what they have to do. And when you have to keep your best players on the ice more often than you'd like, this is what happens. And don't think every other team that's left in the playoffs are all going to recognize this.
Hockey's so different, Craig, than other sports in so many ways, but one of the things I've always been fascinated with are those guys that when they join the team, somehow that team elevates themselves to either Western or Eastern Conference Finals and many times Stanley Cup. And Corey Perry's one of those guys. Pat Maroon's another. Is there a way to describe it as far as what they bring to the room? Or, for instance, Corey Perry's a healthy scratch, and I was kind of thinking that he'd be inserted into this game because it's tough to leave a vet like that despite not playing well at times last series. But what a difference he made last night.
That's because they gave him a regular shift, and that's because they put him up, they're not putting him on the fourth line.
Yeah.
They're giving him his minutes. Like, he's not going to be a power play guy, or PK. He's not picking any minutes up there, so to speak. Unless, they need to tweak something. So, but from a coaching standpoint, from even the players in the room, he's a veteran. I mean, he's won the cup. He's scored 50 plus goals. I mean, we're talking things in his prime, but what he is he's a competitor. And that's what they need on that team. They need somebody that's going to stir the pot, and he knows how to walk the line.
Yeah.
I mean, you see how many times that he's in the middle of something, and very rarely is he the only guy coming out of there heading to the penalty box. He's pretty good at it. So, and he knows who to go to the box with. Like, he's not going to go in there and go to the box with Radek Faksa, or Craig Smith or or Sam Steele. That's not what he'll do. He'll come out of there with Rupe or Robo or Jamie or Tyler. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to make sure that if I got to go to the box, I'm going to make sure I'm taking a quality competitor with me. So, and I, I would say that the games that he hasn't been in the lineup, he's been a positive influence on the group, on the team, everybody. And because again, he knows he's at the end of the rainbow, and that he's playing on a team that is a couple wins away from playing for a Stanley Cup. And so what he did last night is he probably found a way to stay in the lineup, for the next game. And that's what you're supposed to do. I mean, like I said, we do different things just to make sure your name is on the board the very next game, because you're not guaranteed like the best players in the game, and the guys that are in their prime and all that. But if there's one guy, and both coaches here, I think all four coaches that are in the finals are all doing a good job making adjustments. But when it comes to Knobloch, I don't know if there's a move that he's made or hasn't made that has paid off. It seems like every time. Like I was even saying after that second goal went in last night and Edmonton's down 2-0, because the first one on Wyatt's goal, again, not a goalie coach or nothing like that. Generally, what you see from a player coming down on that side of the ice, on his offside, and that shot, you typically see the goaltender having his glove hand up by his shoulder, kind of taking that spot away, making him go, between my pad and my elbow, kind of a harder thing to. So I was surprised on that one. But again, he's probably got a read on Wyatt, and that's where he thinks Wyatt's going to go. And then there was the second one. And then when you come back and you go, I'm like, yeah, I got a feeling it's early. There's 2 goals early on here. They're going to pull them and then just bring them to the bench. And then 3-4 minutes later, put them right back in. Just let them get on the bench, settle down. But then when you see the replay and it goes off, I think it was Nurse, and it went off his back end. And you're like, well, that's not his fault. So he leaves them in, and then all of a sudden, Skinner just becomes getting better and better and better. So, and some of the players that he's put in and out of the lineup at times, who was it that got the goal the other night? Came in from Anaheim or the Jersey, and
Adam Henrique.
Yeah, Henrique gets a goal. That one pays off, so the little things that Knobloch has done. But I think, again, the same for Pete. I mean, Pete, the way he's juggling players around and finding little momentum, like this line, not so much right now. Let's interchange these 2 players. So, and these coaches, that's why they're in the Final Four.
Yeah.
Because they know the players so well. And they go, you know what? It's been 3-4 shifts and I'm not seeing anything here. Let's just tweak this. And it may not be the player that you put there. It may be the player that you took out of that spot and kind of pissed him off a little bit. And then you just do that for 2 shifts, then put him right back there. And he's like, no, I want to play with Rupe. I want to play with Robo, those kind of things. So anyway, I just think that, but this is kind of the way you would think this series would go. I mean, I don't think anybody thought this was going to be 4-1 series. I mean, too many. Well, I shouldn't say too many, but there's 4 or 5 weapons on Edmonton, and there's a complete team in Dallas. 1 through 4 in the lines. Both teams seem to be rolling their lines, and that's another thing about Knobloch. He seems like he's fine rolling his bottom 4, or rolling down to the bottom 2 lines and giving the 4th line, kind of like what Vegas did. They roll through their lines like that, and that's the good news is as the game winds down, your top guys, because you are running everybody, you keep managing their minutes, and they've got some extra gas if you need them in the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes of a hockey game.
Momentum is something that a lot of people don't kind of believe in, but at the same time, I think confidence is a strong word. As a player, Craig, how quickly do you get over a loss like this? Are you preconditioned knowing that you're going to go 6 or 7, so a loss like this doesn't affect you as much? Clearly, you're going toward Friday night, which is a critical Game 5. Usually the team that wins Game 5 goes on to win the series. Talk from a mindset standpoint how you dealt with losses like this on your way to the Cup.
By the time you're out of the shower.
Really? that
hour,
quick.
get on the bus. You're heading to the airport to fly home. It's 2-2. We got 2 out of the 3 games in our building. From Edmonton's standpoint, they win a hockey game. It could have been 3-1 the wrong way. They're tied 2-2. They're going into Dallas. They know that they got to win, 1, maybe 2 games yet. But we're tied. And oh yeah, well, we could have been up 3-1, but we're tied. But we're going home. That's the good news. We're going home. We got what we consider the best fans in the league. So it'd be a little bit different if you're going on the road. But momentum, it's not. It doesn't go game to game. You win this game. I don't believe you have the momentum going into the next game. It starts all over again. You can't expect it because you have to know that the other team, they're at this level, they're at this round, at this stage for a reason. They're able to fight back. They've all been down in games. They've all been down in series, and you get to the Final Four here. They have all had ways that they've overcome the lack of momentum and then having the momentum and then getting into the first shift of the next game and something happens and then you go for 4 or 5 minutes and you don't get a shot and you're under siege. Well, the momentum's gone. So you just have to reset as soon as the game is over. I mean, regardless if you're up 3-0 or you're down 3-0 in the series, you just go into the other building and you go, you know what? We just got to win tonight. We just got to have a good first 5 minutes and then we'll build on that. So yeah, I'm not a guy that believes momentum. I think it's always better, obviously, winning your previous game, but you get, again, another reason that's why Corey Perry's here. He's in the lineup because he's been around since God was a cowboy. So he understands these are the kind of things that are going to happen. This is what's going to happen here. I don't know, when you look at the Edmonton lineup, besides Koff and guys like that are on the bench, but it's one thing to have Paul Coffey on the bench and have 5-6 Stanley Cups or whatever Koff has got, but he's not playing. He's not dressed in tonight, guys. He probably could, but he's not dressed in it.
Yeah.
So you start to lean on guys that have been there, done that. Now, Edmonton have anybody? Is there anybody on Edmonton's lineup besides Corey Perry? You should know this. You're one of these Googling guys.
Yep, Googling guys.
I mean, none of their big guys have been there.
Correct.
I mean, they only got 2-3 of them, but I don't know. Ekholm hasn't been. Ekholm may have played in a final, but he obviously doesn't have a cup. So I don't know if they've got anybody with that experience. So that's where the Corey Perrys come in. That's where in the meetings, in the rooms, and just the players, not the coaches, and sometimes the coaches, but those are the kind of guys that speak up. Guys, I've been here. This is what's happened. This is how we handled it. So you lean on those kind of guys. Like right now, Tyler Seguin becomes important, even though it was 12, 13 years ago. They didn't win 16 straight games. Tyler can lean on that stuff, and guys can lean on Tyler. And if you got to make a shirt up that says "Let's do it for Joel," then make a shirt up for "Let's do it for Joel."
Yeah,
because Joel is a cup away from. I don't know. I mean, Joe's a winning a cup away from being a Hall of Famer. That's what I think.
Yeah,
I do. I think he's. They throw in. They always want to say he's won a cup and he's won an MVP and Corey Perry's done that. He's won an MVP. He's won a cup. They become important. And so if you got to make a shirt up that says "Let's do it for Joe," then go get a shirt. Go get a T-shirt made up.
Yeah. Well,
but those kind of little things.
Pete DeBoer, in fact, was talking about how the stress he feels is for Ben, for Seguin, for Duchesne, for Pavelski, as far as getting them another cup. To answer your question, 2012, the New Jersey Devils lost to the LA Kings. Adam Henrique was a rookie for the Devils. So he played in a Stanley Cup as well.
Okay. So, but yeah. And again, maybe not as much as being a guy that had a lot to do with the outcome of the cup.
Right.
You know what I mean? Being a rookie, I don't know how much he played and was that kind of guy at the time as a rookie. But again, when you have the Corey Perrys and guys like that have, they've been key components when they won their cup. They've been key components for a long time. And I think for Henrique, I think it's been hard for him because he came in here injured, right? And so and then he wasn't, as much as they all make you feel like you're part of the group, you're not, you don't feel part of the group because you're kind of, I'm the new guy, I'm on the sidelines, I can't even get in the lineup, and good for him. He got into a game and, got a goal. But, so yeah, it's, I just think that the veteran guys, and even for Pete, like, he's been to what, 2 or 3 of them, and he hasn't sealed the deal yet.
Yeah.
So
Matthias Ekholm also played with the Nashville Predators. They lost to the Pittsburgh Penguins in the Stanley Cup final.
Who was that?
Matthias Ekholm.
Yeah, that's what I said. I think I'm pretty sure they got there.
Yeah, with
and
Nashville.
That's something too. But that's worth something too. That's important. He got to the finals.
Yeah.
This is what it took. And what'll happen is, let's just say that Edmonton gets to the finals. Now Ekholm can talk about what we did, what we didn't do, like how difficult it really was. And don't take this for granted, because here's the spot we were in against Pittsburgh. And, and so, and he's and again, he's one of those, he's a pillar on the team. They went out and got him. He's a really good player. He's a really good player. He's a rock back there for him. And so you kind of, you lean on those kind of guys in those kind of moments, because not only have they been there, done that, but they're the guys that are on the ice all the time too. They're the ones that are going up against top lines, and they're very important players.
Yeah.
And there's a reason you go out and try to find those guys.
Absolutely. And Matt Duchene, actually, I was watching a special with him, and he was admitting that, the stick was a little bit too tight because he hadn't been there before, and he feels the pressure in a good way. But, you look at his lengthy career, and it's been so successful, Luds, and the furthest he had gone was the second round of the NHL playoffs. So, this is new territory for Duchene. Yeah,
and when you talk about that, those kind of players, and I think, can we agree that Matt Duchene has probably been the best surprise free agent signing that Dallas has had in a long, long time this year?
Long time, yes.
He was a key, him in that line, but he drove that line. He, like, for the regular season, he drove it, and you can see it. He doesn't stand out like he did in the regular season. That's why they always talk about the playoffs are totally different. The spotlights are on you. You know that there's an hour pregame show in the United States, and there's 7-hour pregame shows, or 4-hour pregame shows in Canada. And they're all talking about it, and they're all dissecting everything you do. And, and Dallas has been one of the best teams in the league. And so they're going to drill down on the Rangers, all the 4 teams. They're going to drill down on them. And that they're all talking about it. And that half a second, like even McDavid, like that one in was it the first period? He kind of double clutched it. And was it Essa that got his stick on it?
It was Faksa. Faksa did.
Faksa. Yep. Okay. Like that play right there. Connor McDavid in game 47 in the regular season, that's in the back of the net, and he's halfway back to the bench already.
Yeah.
And so it happens to the best of them. And that particular play, along with the first goal that went in on Skinner. And if you noticed, they had a shot of McDavid, and then there was another shot of McDavid after he got that puck redirected by Faksa. What did he do? He put his stick straight in the air, and he put it on his shoulder. And both times, and that's frustration. He's frustrated. And that's where you want those guys. That's body language. That's bad. I would be talking to him and say, Connor, you're our guy. Like when you show that, and you don't think you're showing it, but he did it when the goal went in on their team early. Well, how would that take? 2 minutes for that goal to go in or whatever it was?
Really quick.
And there you see him turning away, and the first thing he does is the stick goes up in the air, and it goes on his shoulder. Now, a lot of people would think he's pissed off at Skinner for letting that goal in. Or it's just are you serious? We're in this game. We just gave up a goal in the first couple minutes. And then the one that gets redirected, that was more directed at himself because he kind of had the little double hitch on it, and he wanted to get it away quicker. And if he would have, it may have been in the back of the net. So I don't think McDavid, I think he's hurt, because do you remember the play in game 2 or 3? I don't remember if it was the game in Dallas or the game in Edmonton, where somebody coming out of the defensive zone, he got the puck in center ice and was taken off for a breakaway, and Essa caught him.
Yeah.
By the time he got to the blue line, Essa caught him. Now, yes, Essa can skate, but McJesus can fly.
Right.
I'm like, how did that happen? So, and I immediately went, he's got to have something that's bothering him because he has flashes of how he dominates the game, but he's been kept in check pretty well. I mean, you got to, he's a great player, but even the other night, he came out and, he gets that goal and they had an assist in the first couple of minutes or whatever it was. And then you really didn't see him in the second period. Dallas kind of took over. A lot of it has to do with Dallas, but you didn't see Connor McDavid. There were times I'm out there, I'm watching on TV. I'm like, is McDavid out there right now? Where's his number? And yes, he was out there. That doesn't normally happen. You don't have to look for Connor McDavid. You don't have to try to find his number. He stands out. So, whatever they're doing and whatever he's dealing with, it seems like he's got some juice and he comes in spurts, but you're not seeing it over a full 60 minutes. Now, that may be just me. But that's a good thing for any opponent that's playing against Edmonton.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we could see it from the 3 players that were inserted for Edmonton, and there's a freshness too when you hit the ice and you haven't played. So can provide a lot of energy. I thought Ty Dellandrea provided a lot of energy when he was inserted into the lineup. So
exactly. And it's nice to get that little bump out of guys. And if you get 8 minutes, 10 minutes, and these players that are all here on all 14, and not just these 14, but over the course of the year, for the most part, they're all good friends and they all feel for each other. And you feel more for the guys that are in and out of the lineup because it's hard. It's difficult to come into the game and then you're kind of playing the game and going, I can't make a mistake because I want to get my next shift. I got to do these kind of so guys pull for them and they pat them on the ass and they feel good for them when do that and they give them a lot when they come off the ice after a good shift. And so those are kind of, you inject those guys at moments when you need it's kind of like what I talked about pulling a goalie, and you pull a goalie and as soon as he gets to the bench, you light your players up. This isn't on him. We're not playing the right way in front of him. This is not on whoever that goaltender may be. And you make sure that goaltender hears that. And then you walk down and you say, you're going to be back in 3 shifts from now. You're going right back in. Get your shit together. You're going right back in. And then the rest of the team hears that. So there's different ways to kind of get a little bump out of your players. You don't want to waste that. You're not wasting a timeout, at least in that way. You're just bringing your goaltender in. You're telling your backup, hey, just take your time. Take your time, get in the net. Take your time skating over there. Stretch a little bit. And then you have your opportunity to get in the ear of your players depending on what your style is. I mean, we've seen Paul Maurice with Florida do it a few times. But Paul Maurice, I love the guy. I absolutely love that coach and how he handles the media and everything. And I think that he doesn't throw his players under the bus. Very rarely do many coaches do that. They can't do that, now, not like they used to. But he does it in a way, if you're a player, you're going, God, I love this guy. I love what he says here and this little that. And, so, but anyway, that's what do they call it, the game within the game and all those kind of little things that go on.
And Craig, you were on the road, so you probably didn't see it, but in the Edmonton press conference yesterday, a reporter, it was Skinner and McDavid on the podium.
I'll take this one.
Yes.
Come on now, Gavin. I see everything one way or another. I see it all.
You do.
But that's a leader.
Yes.
Right. That's the guy. And it's like, and it was a shit question. Right. And don't be, well, again, you're in Canada, it happens, right? And I'm sure it happens, but don't be asking a player about another player. You know what I mean? Like, well, Darnell's had a rough time, or however he phrased it. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew how he was going to phrase it. But if, I don't know, I'd prefer, let's say it's Mike Heika. I would prefer you ask me that question about me. Don't ask Hatcher about me. Ask me, why am I playing shitty? Don't wait until I'm not on the podium and then put it on somebody else. And because all it is you're looking for press clippings, right? They're looking to get something that they can, well, here's what Connor said, because I'm sure, did you see the little thing, I don't know, AI or whatever they did with McDavid about his goaltender Skinner? Have you seen that thing yet?
No.
Well, McDavid is doing an interview, but it's kind of like what they do to Joe Rogan, right? All these things are promoting and Joe Rogan's like, I never even did that commercial. It just makes my lips look like I'm promoting this product.
Okay.
So it was about, we got to get that guy out of there. He sucks as a goaltender and all this other. Obviously, he's not saying it, but they're so good at it and they're talking, but it's not McDavid really saying it. So it's kind of like that kind of stuff. And again, that's in today's market. But that, like I said, and as soon as there's McDavid slips a little bit, or whoever that may be, then social media, why? Well, did you hear what McDavid said?
Yeah.
Did you hear what Draisaitl said? Well, then reported by Gavin Spittle.
Right.
Well, now you're getting all the ink because you got that little shit show of, a teammate throwing another teammate under the bus.
Yeah. Yep. No,
That's what you media guys do. You media guys do that stuff.
What? You just said it was a bad question. You said it shouldn't have been asked, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm this guy's teammate.
Well, you're a media guy.
Well, it doesn't matter. Just because I'm...
There is no such thing as bad PR from a media standpoint, is there?
I think there can be. I do.
Bad shit sells better than good shit.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. Let's be real. Yeah.
Okay. So, wanted to ask you before we end.
We're going to the mailbag. Let's go to the mailbag.
No, I'm not going to go to the mailbag. I'm going to ask you.
I got to get my King beer here.
Yep.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Does something need to be said in the room before Game 5, or is it understood? Or take us through leadership in the room. When is the proper time to say something? Should it be said at all?
You'll know when things don't. You're at this point in the playoffs. A lot of the things have already been said, and they didn't roll through any round being 3-1. They didn't roll through any rounds 4-0. They've been up, they've been down, they found ways to come back, and that. But you don't typically use those things over again. And if you continue to use the same thing over again, it's probably more superstition if you're saying the same thing. But you'll know what to say. And it's the right guys. And sometimes, what the best thing to do is don't say anything. If you're not really sure, like, what should I say here? Then you don't have confidence in what you're saying, so don't say anything. Somebody will come up with something, And I think that's what's good about, like, the teams that I was with, the Montreal group and the Dallas group. We didn't have 3 or 4 guys. We had 16, 17 guys. So when you have 3 guys that are always doing the talking, it gets old, and it's hard to keep coming up with motivational things. That's the whole process of, over the course of the year, your leadership group is 3, 4, 5 guys. We want it to be 10 or 12 guys. Get it to 14 guys. And then you've got more voices. Then you've got a band of brothers that are sticking together. And that's why, again, I look at Edmonton like that. I know nothing about their locker room, but I don't know if the bottom 6 are involved vocally. I don't know if anywhere past their 3, 4 defensemen are involved vocally. I don't know that, but it doesn't. It seems like it's always on Leon. It's always on Connor.
Sure.
I don't know where Darnell is. I don't know what kind of player Darnell is. Like, if Darnell is a real leader, he'll call himself out. He'll call himself and say, I've just played like shit. Tonight, I'm going to be the best defenseman here. Tonight, I'll do that. I will be that. I commit to you guys to be the best guy here. I don't think Dallas has to do any of that. I think Dallas has not been bad. There's just been some decisions, and, again, it's not like it. I don't see that as a concern. I think Jamie Benn has been absolutely incredible.
Yes.
These whole playoffs. I just think that, and, when they get a shot of him on the bench or on the ice, talk about a guy that there's no emotion there. It's all business. And that's your captain. That's how we felt about Hatch. And, sometimes when Hatch would say something, you'd go, oh, Hatch, you don't need to say it. Like, when Hatch was leading, he was doing. He'd just go out and do it. And that's how Hatcher led. That's, to my opinion, that's how Brendan Morrow led. You don't have to be a rah-rah guy. You just go do certain things on the ice, and you go, yep, our captain's here tonight, or yep, he's here. And those guys will draw other people into the fight.
A couple of keys for Friday night, and wanted to get your thoughts if you agree, is
more goals in Edmonton.
Yep, absolutely. That's certainly one of the keys. But it does break down. I look throughout the games that they've lost in the playoffs, And when they shoot 30 or more times, Craig, very successful. At the same time, more shots on Skinner, but I need some net front traffic in front of Skinner this upcoming game. I feel as though Edmonton or the Stars haven't been able to get in front of Skinner to create some screens. The other thing we haven't seen is a lot of tip pucks, which the Stars were known for during the game, mainly, Pavelski during the season. So I'd like to see that and would love to see a quick start. I know it's brutal for, Dallas has the tendency to kind of get rolling, and now the saying is slow start in the first, but hey, we finished strong and got the job done in the third. So those are my keys because I would love to see the crowd amped and into it.
Yeah, well, and again, if you're on the other side of the coin, you're Edmonton, you're trying to go no high event things happen in the first 5 minutes. Let's just play a boring first 5 minutes or get the first goal. That'd be ideal. Which sometimes is easier than trying to get the crowd into it, because sometimes you got to be careful, because you're trying to do too much. Sometimes less is more. Let's do our thing. What Dallas, and I had sent a message to somebody after game 2. Actually, I was in Montreal, and I sent it to someone on it would have been after game 2, or I think it was game 2 or 3. I'm not sure which one, but Edmonton is really good with their strong side defensemen that hold not the blue line heading into their own zone, the offensive blue line, or between center ice and the blue line. And they keep that gap. So if it comes up to that left winger, for instance, their right D stands up on them. And then what'll happen is the left D comes all the way across the ice for that puck that gets chipped behind that first defenseman that stands up. And it's like they squeeze it to one side. The defenseman stands up. He makes sure he comes from the middle out, so you don't make that pass through the middle of the ice. You kind of go chip it up the wall. You get support. But they bring the right D all the way over there too. And I had said, I would just start, if I'm that winger, I'm flipping it to the other side of the ice. Or I'm going directly lateral across the ice. Because you have two defensemen on the same side of the ice, because that's what they're trying to squeeze you into doing. Well, put it into an empty area there and either get your offside D to jump in or keep your offside winger over there on that side of the ice. And I think you can create some 2-on-1s that way, because you should be able to lose the defenseman. Both of them in the neutral zone, because that's where they play. So anyway, but I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. I just think, to me, it's territorial. I think when Dallas gets into playing an exchange game back and forth, it's because they'll try to make something happen between center ice and the offensive blue line from a creative way, make a pass through the middle of the ice. And if it's an even number, it's a 3-on-3, or it's a 3-on-3 with that back checker coming back into the play, I would prefer to see the puck get into the offensive zone, because I believe they can work their defensemen in the offensive zone. I think they can create offensive zone chances, but I think you have to be more selective on the ones that you feel that you might be able to make a pass to the middle of the ice. Maybe I can create it, but you see that and it's numbers on numbers. Just soft chip behind that defenseman and bring somebody to the puck. It sounds a little old school, and really what it is, it's territorial. It's territorial hockey, and you've seen some of the goals that are going in on this guy, and I would be directing everything to the puck. And like you say, when let's say your left winger has the puck, and he's getting below the tops of the circles, and tonight we have a shot first mentality. Well, then as the centerman or the right winger, somebody doesn't have to be high. You don't even have to think about it, because we know the puck is going to the net, because here's how we're going to play. And so next thing you know, you got your centerman and your right winger, because my left winger's got the puck. We're below the tops of the circles. It's not an outnumbered rush. It's going to the net. So I'm going to the net. But you bring in your right side defenseman. Now he's the guy that kind of comes in late. He gets up the ice. So if there's anything up there, or you know what I mean? So it's more of a direct kind of a game. And so at the end of the first period, there's 20 minutes a game. Maybe you spent 7-8 minutes in the offensive zone, and they've spent 3 in your zone. Because if you can pin them in their own zone, especially in the second period, right? What happens is, as the puck leaves there and they have to go back the other way offensively, they're tired. So they end up sending 2 guys or 3 guys off with a change, getting 2 or 3 guys back on, but they're not involved in the rush, because by the time the other guys get to the bench and the other guys come on the ice, there shouldn't be an outnumbered rush going the other way. So for me, it's just more territorial because I think besides 2 or 3 guys on the Edmonton team, Dallas has a bigger volume of players that have a lot more scoring ability from the hash marks in than Edmonton does. And whether it's tight around the net or it's off a rush and one of them nice tic-tac-toe plays, but typically when you start getting this late in the round, most teams are playing pretty tight. That's why they're here, so it's hard to go east-west when you get below the tops of the circle. So don't pass it up. And again, I think from the other side of the coin, guys are going, we're not going to score in a shot from there on this Ottinger guy. We've got to find a way to go east-west because he's too good. He seems to stop all them, and he's, finding a way to get the when it does go east-west, he's getting that. So let's just be a little bit more direct. And no, we can't do that. So we're going to have to try to make another pass. But if you're going to do that, then you got to play the 2-on-1s right and the outnumbered rushes right. So Jake can come out, challenge, and then we will take care of the pass across the crease if there is one.
Mason Catcherin on Twitter as we tape this, Luds was in Edmonton Airport and taking a picture of Chris Tanev wearing a walking boot. I think that's very natural, so I'm just saying it. Don't panic, Stars fans. It's to keep the foot, in one place. So that doesn't mean anything. But I do find it fascinating they're walking through an airport.
Well, that
maybe it's
is
Edmonton.
Odd. It is odd.
Yeah.
But again, I told you about what Boston would do in the playoffs. They'd screw the windows shut or they'd screw the windows open when it's 30 below.
Yeah. It's just kind of
well, they
weird.
may say, you know what, we can't drive you right out to the tarmac.
Right.
We need you to go through here at this point. So, but are they flying out of the big airport in Edmonton? Are you flying out of a private airport? And there just happens in a private airport and there's just somebody hanging around.
Yeah, it kind of looked like a big airport, actually.
Okay.
So, but all right. So let's finish on some great notes. You went back to where it all started, Montreal, last weekend. And wow, will Montreal ever be the same when Craig Ludwig visits? Give me your thoughts. You sent me an awesome picture. Were you at an autograph signing, and how did it go? And did you see any three? Were you wearing 3 at the time up there? Yeah, you were in 3.
Nope.
No? What were you wearing? 16, 17?
Oh my God, you're awful. You're supposed to know this stuff. I wore 17. You go into a market and an organization like the Montreal Canadiens, or you go to the Dallas Cowboys, or you go to the New York Yankees. You go, no, that guy's wearing number 3. I want that number. You don't do that. What happened was Rod Langway had gotten traded along with Brian Engblom and a couple other guys the year that I went there. Actually, I was driving to Montreal and I heard about it on the radio that 2 top defensemen are being traded away. And they came and they said, here, you're wearing number 17. I'm like, thank you very much. You're always happy if it's one of them numbers like below 20, in the day. Now they're in the 90s. But
right.
I'm like, normally when you go in as a rookie and you're playing in your first preseason game or whatever, and you got like a 73 on, you're like, this ain't going to be long. I'm not going to be here long. So if you get a lower number at the time, it was a better sign than getting one of them. They should have given me one with 3 digits on it, probably the way I was. But anyway, no, I had number 17 while I was there.
Good trip?
Yeah. But you know what they did? Like, again, these guys, well, in some ways, my reputation kind of precedes myself, not really hockey related, but they put me out by the airport at some hotel called the Novotel, which is an industrial district. No bars, no restaurants. The hotel bar didn't open up till 6 p.m. And then, so I couldn't get anywhere. And they don't have Lyft. I don't know, how do they not have Lyft? They did have Uber. So I actually somehow figured out how to download the Uber Lyft on my phone.
Nice. Good job.
Yeah. And then I went on there and I was going to go someplace and it was going to take 6 minutes and it was $57 to go 6 minutes.
Wow.
And I was probably 40 minutes from downtown.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. So they did their homework or they remember. So then the next day, I go down because I got to do my thing at 2. I go down to the bar and I see a little sign there. Doesn't open up till this is on a Saturday. Doesn't open up till 5. Now, so I'm like, well, I'm screwed here again. And so they have a guy come pick me up. They take me to the show. When do I fly out? 5 p.m. the same day. They they should have just put shackles on me and said, just tied me to the wall. But no, I love it. I had a good time. It was well run. And it's one of these kind of deals where you basically walk into into a locker room and they have 2 guys and they will put things down in front of you. And then they have little sticky notes on it. This is to John. This is to Pierre. This is to Andre. And they tell you what they want you to write on it. Like put, this and put that on it. They just fire them off and it goes over and over. I was there with Mike Richter.
Oh, nice.
Kovalov was there. And one pitcher from the Dodgers, Eric Gagne.
Oh, yeah.
He was there. So anyway, but it was great. And then you walk out. You're there for about an hour in the locker room doing that stuff. And then they take you out to where there's an exhibit hall. And then there's a line up there, and it's the same kind of deal. They let one person at a time come up, and a lot of them brought seats. They brought the seats from the old Forum. They had bought seats, and anyway, so you sit out there for about 45 minutes, and you get to chat with the people for a little while. Then you go back into the locker room for about another 45 minutes, and you sign some other stuff, and then they're like, and I said, you realize I haven't had a beer yet today. I take care of that for you, Mr. Ludwig. And so next thing I know, I had 4 glasses of Molson X sitting in front of me. And then I had to go to the airport. That was my, wasn't even 24 hours.
But you did get to hang with someone from Slapshot, and that was cool.
I did. And actually I don't know how, unless they were blowing smoke, but they said, hey, you got a Slapshot buddy out here. I'm like, really? And so he said, no, he heard you were here and he'd like you to come out. And so I did. I went out there, talked to him, Yvon, and talked to him for a little while. And 78 years old he is right now.
Wow. Looks great.
Gavin, I think you'd be an inch or 2 taller than him too.
Which is so weird because when you see it, like in the movie theater, all these guys seem 6'4" to 6'6".
Yeah, he's just a wee guy. And as a matter of fact, his son was there, and his son is kind of travels with him, and because he's doing a lot of dates, doing a lot of signing and stuff like that. And anyway, his son actually looks way more like the goalie from Slapshot than his dad does. Almost could sit in for him. Same kind of beard, the whole 9 yards. So
nice.
So yeah, and it was great. It was all French, good. And
good.
We were in Laval, and Laval is Frenchish. So
yeah.
It's always nice to be back.
Finally, as you mentioned, niece getting married on Saturday.
God.
Will I receive video of Craig Ludwig on the dance floor?
Well, it's at my house. It's at our cabin here. And my brother's out front right now and his cat trying to smooth over what we're making of a driveway. And the deck is, they just got sod down on the sides of the deck because my niece wants to get married on the deck that I built last summer here that overlooks the water and stuff. So this will be your typical redneck wedding, I think. So are
you going to go help your brother after this?
Chance. No, that won't happen. As a matter of fact, I'm planning, I told my brother this afternoon, I said, I will be sitting right up there. I'm going to be sitting on the roof of my cabin, not down. There's 120 people that are apparently going to come here, sit outside. They're going to bring chairs out here and sit here. And then the ceremony and all that kind of stuff will be on the deck. And then one lake away from me, lake and a half away from me, it's called the Kickback. And that's where the reception will be. And then from there, it sounds like I may be shuttling some people back and forth to where the bridesmaids are all staying about 4 or 5 lakes up. So I think I might be a little pontoon boat shuttle back and forth.
Wow. Okay. But when the wedding's happening, you're not going to be in the seats where the wedding's taking place. You'll be.
No, but if I can sit, it's about I don't know, maybe 56, no, probably about 100 feet, 100 to 150 feet away from the cabin, away from the water, where the deck is down by the water there. I could sit up on the roof and kind of watch the whole thing. I don't have to, this isn't my daughter getting married. This is my brother's deal. So the further away, the better, as far as everybody else is concerned. They'd like me to be up there too.
Bribes will be forthcoming.
Will probably be heard. So that would be, so when somebody's yelling out, don't do it, they probably won't be able to hear it.
Bribes will be forthcoming to your wife for any kind of collateral on Mr. Ludwig.
Yeah, I think she'll be probably chaining me up there. So you know what she did last year? So last year I was up there painting. I had a piece of PVC pipe that was coming out of the roof that comes from the air dryer, right? And it was white. And I'm like, God, it's like a flag in the air. So I went up there to paint it, and I had Kim come out and hold the ladder for me. I said, because an old Ricky ladder got me up on the roof. And then so I'm up there, I painted it, and then about 20 minutes later, I look down and she's not there. She was in the cabin or doing whatever. I was up there for 45 minutes. I'm banging on the roof and the whole night. She didn't come out, and I couldn't get off the roof. He goes, "Oh, I didn't hear you." I'm like, "Bullshit, you didn't hear me. You heard me yelling." And he goes, "No, I really didn't hear you." So I sat up there. So anyway, it'll be fun. Okay. It'll be a good time. And my brothers and his wife I'm sure they can't wait till it's all over with, because unfortunately for him, because his daughter wants to get married here, we just kind of dug up a lot of things and got this cabin ready, like last summer, maybe ready. There's still driveway that has to be done, and there was no grass down by the deck. So he's not happy that he's got to put all the grass. He just puts sod down on both sides of the deck, and now he's got to do the driveway up so people can sit there and all that stuff. So he's spending some money on my yard, and he's not happy about it.
Pretty good deal, buddy.
And I'm going to be working for him this summer. I'm going to be out in the woods, and so he's got a contract with the city, and so he has to cut all the the trees and all that kind of stuff along 187 miles of road, both sides.
Wow.
And so when the trees fall and all that kind of stuff, or hang over the lights, got to go up and cut them all down and then throw them in the wood chipper. So that's what I'll be doing this summer.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
wow, that's pretty awesome. Thank you so much for taking time away from your vacation, joining us. You're a beast, and hopefully Friday night is a victory. And when we talk to you next, hopefully they're moving on to the Cup.
Yep, I hope so. They're the better team. Yep. As a team goes, in my opinion, they're stronger. 1 through 20, whatever in the lineup that night, they're stronger in net. I really do believe they've done a pretty good job against McDavid, even though I think he's still leading the playoffs in points, isn't he? I think he's leading the playoffs in points. I think you're right. But I don't know. He just doesn't. The good news is he doesn't seem like the guy. I think, like I said earlier, I think he's got a bit of an injury he's dealing with. But he hasn't been the best McDavid that we've seen.
Yeah.
We've seen it in flashes, but I think a lot of that has to do with the way Dallas is playing. So they've got to continue to try to keep him down and lean on some other guys, and they'll be okay. And they're good at home. We know that. They're really good on the road, and but I just think Dallas is a deeper team all the way through, and I think Jake is holding up his end of the deal.
Yep.
So
he certainly is. All right, my friend, we will talk to you soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I'm probably going to have another one here and go down and kind of be the general contractor down here with my brother. And don't forget Ludwig Pools, presented by Ludwig Pools.
Yes, Ludwig Pools. It's a family thing. So
it's a family thing. There's the whole family.
Yep. The whole family's involved. So support Craig Ludwig by supporting his kiddos with Ludwig Pools. Yep.
Ludwig Pool Service.
Ludwig Pool Service. Got it.
They take Miller Lite. They get paid in Miller Lite too for some people.
For 17-year NHL vet with a ton of playoff experience, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, Craig Ludwig, I'm Gavin Spittle. Thank you so much for listening to this edition of Spits and Suds. We'll be on Friday night after the game number 5 right here on Spits and Suds. Have a great day, everyone.